Hi there, my name is Danny Henderson, and I couldn't be more proud or more humbled to bring these two particular ladies onto my channel today, Gloria Masters and Cathy O'Brien. Now, before we get into their life stories, which we're going to share, I need to give you a very severe and graphic warning. This is not for children. Please do not have your kids in the room. These ladies are going to share information of horrors that they endured via their fathers and other men and women when they were little girls. This is a very severe warning. We take no responsibility whatsoever for any upset you may receive, but you need to get your children out of the room and not be selfish. Thank you. Cathy O'Brien, may I come to you? May you please introduce your beautiful self and tell us a little bit of who you are and why you're on this round table.
I really appreciate this opportunity to bring truth to light. People need it now more than ever. They're wondering what in the world is going on, what has happened. It all looks so new to them, when in fact, what we're seeing today has been going on my whole life. I am a survivor of CIA MK Ultra mind control and was thrust into it from birth. Really, back by 1960, this pedophilic mind control agenda for the New World Order was already going on. And I'm extremely fortunate to have survived it, healed, and been speaking out for over 35 years, raising awareness, hoping people would wake up in time to stop following this dark cabal that's wanting to manipulate humanity. They have no business meddling in our brilliant minds and lives. They're just a very dark, low vibration, evil, negative force. They have no business. So they're only a handful, but it's so hard for people to wrap their minds around the reality that we share this planet with such a horrific evil that they have gotten away with a lot for a long time. And now it's coming to light. People are seeing it. A great awakening is happening, and healing is possible from any level of trauma, any level of childhood abuse, any level of mind control. And I'm living proof of that. I survived the impossible, and I'm bringing that truth to light so everyone else can reclaim their freedom and live life the way that it was intended to be, true to soul, with strength of spirit, with purpose, and why we're all here at this pivotal moment in time. This is our time.
It's so our time. Cathy, what a beautiful intro. Thank you so much. And just want to say to the dark ones out there, you can relax, okay? We're not going to say any names. We're not going to name your names today. The politicians, the governors, the senators, all the presidents, all those that know what Cathy's talking about, you can relax. Go back to your rooms. Bye-bye. Now let's bring on Gloria Masters. Hello, darling. Please give us a synopsis of your reasoning for being here with Cathy and I on this round table today.
Oh, thank you. A bit of a hard act to follow there, Cathy. But such an honour to be here. And look, really, it's simple. My heart is with the beautiful men and women who have survived child sexual abuse. We know the numbers are huge. We know I call it the silent pandemic. There's just not enough happening around this space. The powers that be, the influencers, all good people actually don't really want to know because they don't know what to do with it. And so it's never discussed and it's never highlighted the way it should be. My story is not an easy one. I survived 16 years of child sexual abuse, including trafficking. I was leased to gangs. I was leased to Freemasons. My father made a great deal of money out of me. I featured in many child abuse videos and photographs. Apparently they are in the States now. But that was back in the late 60s, early 70s, and this is not new, as Cathy alluded to. I had forced abortions on me, and the person that trained me to be the best child sex worker I could be was actually my grandmother, so my father's mother. So the list goes on, and yeah, I'm just here to say my purpose in life is to help others by shining light on this with love and humility.
Thank you so much, ladies. Now, I know that none of the telling is easy, and I'm just so in awe of the remarkable healing journeys that you have both been on, over these last 50 plus years. And you really are a bright light for others. And we know there'll be many that will watch this, but they'll never come forward. They'll never be able to open their mouths and speak and share their pain and their shame that parents and other adults inflicted upon them. But at least watching you two, you give the gift of knowing that there is a way to survive. There is a way to stay strong, keep your head up, keep moving forward and creating a life for yourselves and for others. It's just such a beautiful gift, despite the horror. Cathy, I wanted to share that years ago when I was on television in Great Britain, there was a channel called Edge Media, and it showed really beautiful realities of our world, UFOs, which of course now the government go, oh, by the way, there are actually UFOs. Well, they've got little or no choice now because the systems are crumbling. And there was one time the documentary made on you years ago. This is like 2009 or 10. I'm not sure when your documentary first came out with your beautiful husband, Mark, but I want to let you know, Cathy, the absolute impact you had on my life personally all those years ago. That's a good 13 years ago. I watched you share with your husband, Mark, who I know has since passed on, how you were a slave, a robot, a zombie, which I know we're going to get into more details. But the thing that really gave me hope, and one of the reasons why I have this channel today, Cathy, is because the way that you spoke about love, and that you were able to find a light in your heart because this man showed you love, even though you were able to see this beautiful man and gain your memories. And that changed my life. That gave me hope for the masses. Can you share us a little of that situation, please?
Mark Phillips was a spook who was working the highest levels of intelligence mind sciences in the US. And he found pertinent information on mind-brain function was being suppressed under national security for generations, so that mental health and the medical community didn't have the information, and society as a whole didn't have the information that is within us all to heal ourselves. We have been blessed with the most amazing immune systems, the most resilient body, mind, and spirit. We have all that within us, but we forgot to look within ourselves. We've been conditioned for generations to look outside ourselves, to big government, to big pharma, to big cult religion even. Always outside ourselves instead of looking within to our connection, to our source, to that infinite strength of spirit, that infinite power of love, which is the most powerful force in the universe. And when Mark saw all that was being suppressed from society, as a spook, Mark worked as CIA, FBI, Secret Service. He was in and out of the White House. He was whatever he needed to be because he was that intelligence. And what he saw happening with child sex trafficking, with children being taken in and out of the White House and out of the Pentagon and being trafficked and used for blackmail purposes. And he was livid. He couldn't bear what he saw was happening to humanity, and he wanted to make a difference. But as an intelligence insider, he was bound by laws of sedition, and he couldn't release that information. So he took action. By that time, I was being used on a White House Pentagon level, and I was deep in the swamp in Washington, D.C. And Mark lifted me right out of the swamp and my daughter and handed us those keys to our own mind that have been suppressed from society for so long. And it was an amazing process. I began my healing journey, writing out my memory, and using the things that he reminded me are within us all. That ability to heal, and discovered for myself how resilient we all are, and the power of love. This dark energy force that has been perpetuating these crimes against children and against humanity feed off of negativity. They feed off of hatred. They feed off of fear and trauma. And that's why they generate so much of it. It's their energy source. That's what they want. They got enough of that from me the first 30 years of my life. And when I realized exactly what I have within me, they're not going to get any of that, because that power of love is something I choose to live. And everything I do going forward is in light of that love and that truth. That is a high vibration. They can't touch it. They don't want anything to do with it. They can't relate to it. They don't understand it. They know that the strength of the human spirit is where we win, and where they lose, it's game over. As soon as we realize, hey, it's within it, we got the power. But they only have as much power as we give them or let them steal. And hey, it's over. We just need to remember that it's within us all to reclaim that. So everything I do is out of love for humanity. It's out of love for the children. It's out of the absolute joy and celebration of the amazing life's purpose and resiliency that we've been blessed with. And I just am so excited to tell and remind everybody, come on, everybody, it's within us all. We win. You know, it's such an exciting time. And Mark, intelligence insider that he was, gave me all of that by reminding me of that, and by living that love and that joy himself. Mark was a hero to us all. And the keys that he gave me for healing that he couldn't release, I could release. I'm not bound by laws of sedition. And it was my experience to heal using those methods that have been within us all along. I can't be stopped. I can't be suppressed. So I'm sharing that truth. I've posted it on my website, trance-formation.com, in ebook form. It's secured there with a pay what you can if you can option. So everybody can have it now, regardless of income, regardless of where in the world they live. And they can apply these easy little brain tricks to themselves and reclaim not only their free thought and inner peace, but their connection to source, and start living that love. So Mark was a hero to us all. The information is out there. The truth is there. And I just feel like the luckiest girl in the world to have survived my torturous MK Ultra mind control ordeal, to have healed, and to be in this wonderful position to bring this part of the dark truth to light, that we've got the power.
That's so fumbling around there. Thank you, Cathy. That's just mind-blowing. Goodness me. Gloria, can we come to you? Can you please explain to us in the beginning what the start was and what you were eventually used for? Because we really do need to call out what gangs do and what certain initiations are, that where children are used, which people are going to be so blown away and upset. But you've got to get the truth, guys. That's why we're here right now.
Yeah. So look, there were, as you can appreciate, thousands of incidents over those years. With the gang ceremonies, what would happen is my father was able to connect him with the gang leader. And of course, gangs are all patched. And back in those days, I don't imagine they're too dissimilar now in terms of you knew who the gangs were by what they were wearing and how they looked, and they tended to ride motorbikes. Yeah, that hasn't changed. But with the gang initiation, he would get more money if I was at the ceremony, and I would be the prize. So for those who perhaps don't understand gang culture, an initiation ceremony is where someone needs to prove themselves in order to be initiated into the gang. And so it might be that they need to shoot somebody, it might be they need to rob somebody, it might be, you know, even worse than that. So as an 11-year-old, I was taken to the gang and left for 24 hours. And this is one incident, but within that 24 hours, they had me put on the block, is the term, which is you're put onto a table, hands and feet are tied to each corner, and then the person who was being initiated could do whatever he wanted to me. And that unfortunately was not just sexual attack and violation. That was a beating so severe, my whole face was pulverized. I was unconscious. I had ribs broken. I was so badly beaten that when my father came to collect me the next day, his words were to the gang leader, mate, you may want to be careful what you do to her, eh? And I thought, gosh, he's actually standing up for me, which would be a first. But no, he finished with, she won't look as good for you otherwise. So, yeah.
No words. There are no words.
Yes.
The even ladies, that one of the hardest things for people who may have heard a little bit here and there, the hardest thing for any human, any moral, any good human, which of course we are the mass number, the good humans, we outweigh everybody evil. It's so hard for them to even imagine that a man or a woman, but let's focus on the men because that's been mostly you ladies' experiences, that a man, your own fathers abused you in the worst ways, in unimaginable ways. And yet our mothers and our fathers, or our guardians that raise us, these are the people that we are supposed to be looked after, loved, nurtured, taken care of. The first 7 years of our lives are the most important in every way, including being in vitro. We are affected in the womb and we come out. And you two have had just such horrific, horrendous, unthinkable trauma. Cathy, would you be all right with sharing your first memories of childhood, please?
Well, my abuse began at birth with my father's sexual abuse. And that kind of abuse creates compartmentalization in the brain. It's like our mind's sane defense to trauma too horrible to comprehend. And it's what makes us easy to control and suggestible, because neuron pathways in the brain actually shut down. I mean, getting dumbed down to the absolute maximum. So the pain and suffocation of his sexual abuse caused my brain to start shutting down from infancy. I didn't know what he was doing was wrong. So sometimes our brains do protection around what we aren't even conscious to judge or aware to judge. And his sexual abuse extended into child pornography and he was trafficking me to my grandfather's Blue Masonic Lodge. Again, the Masons, where all the secrets are kept, and the initiations are horrific there too. So I was passed around there where local politicians and law enforcement and everyone was involved. And when he was caught sending child pornography of me through the mail when I was like 3 years old, he was approached by one of those politicians at my grandfather's Blue Masonic Lodge and told he could receive immunity from prosecution if he would sell me into the CIA's MK Ultra mind control project. And he agreed. He thought it was great. And we're already seeing, the justice system being eroded by these criminals who can invoke national security or compromise the judges or whatever they did was way back happening in like 1960. And as quickly as my father agreed to sell me into the project, he was trained how to traumatize me further so that those neuron pathways in my brain would shut down more and more and more, leaving me more and more suggestible and easily led so that I could only do exactly what I was told to do. And those traumas began heavily in my local Catholic church, where I was exposed to a lot of occult ritual. So from that point on, the sexual abuse, the trafficking, the pornography went into satanic ritual abuse also. So it was very traumatic, early childhood. All that was happening while my brain was still forming, because any abuse prior to age 5, while the brain is still forming, creates a dissociative disorder that makes people very compliant, and really is the whole reason behind this massive global push for sanctioning pedophilia, for saying that it's something normal when it's not, and pushing the whole transgender movement, because when children are abused at such an early age, they don't have gender confusion. They have identity confusion. They don't even know who they are, let alone what their sexuality might be all about, especially if it's been violated so early on. So this transgender movement is a mind control agenda. The whole pedophile agenda is. And much of this information was part of the secrets that they keep in secret societies like the Masonic Lodge.
It is beyond insane, and it's so devastating again for people who are just coming to understand this is a reality. And you ladies have lived this for over 50 years of your lives, and been so abused by the system. But it's every single system that we've all been trained and programmed to look up to. It's the church, it's governments, it's the medical industrial complex, it's the military industrial complex, it's the police enforcement, it's the jurisdiction, the legal lawyer system. Everything is so broken and so corrupt. There isn't one single clean system that we know of because of all of the information that's been coming out. And it is women like you, Cathy O'Brien and Gloria Masters, who stand on the shoulders of the dark ones, and you stand like giants and you shine your light into the field, bringing back focus on love and the greatness of humanity and the spirit, that no matter what happened to you too, your spirits weren't broken. In the end, they weren't broken. Gloria, may I come back to you, my love? May you share some of the systems and people, men and women that you were abused by, that was supposed to be good standing moral personnel in New Zealand.
Yeah, so look, I'm pleased that you've mentioned women in this, because I'm not sure that it's known out there. It's because it's not, people don't want it known. But between 25 and 30% of abusers are women. And it's time for the world to start to make some noise about that. We've got to stop just labelling men as abusers. And even though, for instance, my mother didn't sexually abuse me, she was so complicit in it, she is what I would call a gatekeeper or enabler. So to me, that is by far the larger group. We have our predators, yeah, we have our abusers. We also have people like Cathy and myself who are the survivors, but the middle group is by far the biggest group. And they are usually the gatekeepers and enablers, because they either know something and choose to do nothing, or they suspect something and choose to do nothing. And that to me is criminal. And recently in the UK, I don't know if you know this, Danny, there's been a law that's passed that if you are aware of child sexual abuse happening and you don't report it, you can be charged. Isn't that amazing? So I wish globally that would take off. But in answer to your question, I was leased out of a nightclub, chained to a bed, And remember, this went from day dot up to the age of 16. Now, at that nightclub were men and women who worked there, but there were also men and women who would pay to abuse me. I was the only child being leased out of there. So as far as I could tell at that time, I didn't know who these people were, but I knew enough to know they must be fairly well heeled or have money behind them, because it wasn't cheap. They could do what they liked to me, but there were graduated fees. Yeah. So there was that. Also within that establishment was where the filming would take place. Now we're going back to the 60s, so it wasn't videos. It was the old-fashioned projectors with the big, I'll never forget them, the big square leather-bound cases that the film would sit in. And there were many occasions where that was filmed, and I would have to perform. So there would be men and sometimes women on the podium I would be put on, and I would have to perform on them, with them, or to them. And what I learned to do, and Cathy, you alluded to this, is dissociative. We dissociate as children because our mind can't stay there. It's just too traumatic. So it's a little bit of that neural pathway breakdown, but I liken it to a car accident. You will forget what happened because it's too hard for you to stay with what happened. It will come back though, and that's the beauty of what you and I are here to do. But the point is that for all of this that happened, there was only one place that couldn't be touched, and that was my mind. And so I'm so grateful, because my mind just kept telling me to just keep breathing, just keep going, just hang in there. And I didn't know why, but I do now. So that's my gift to the world. There's hope beyond. When nothing feels possible, hope stands up. There's always a way.
There is, so many women, like yourselves, end up suicidal, in prostitution, on drugs, addicted to sex, or worse, or it's just horrendous what happens when little children are so badly broken from birth onwards, and how they even can focus, function, breathe, live in this world, because nobody believes, cares, they feel so hopeless. And in us bringing, sitting together and hearing your life experiences, there is a hope that we will touch other men and women out there who have gone through horrors that we know will never be able to speak up, and they just can't. And we understand that, and we send love to you all out there. We want you to know that you're not alone, and that we know terrible things have happened to so many of us, billions across this planet. But by shining a light, and by saying no, and by calling people out, establishments that put themselves in positions of power, when they themselves, the evil ones upstairs at the top of this planet, they have an intelligence less than the value of a dinner plate. I mean, why would we give our power to dinner plates, right? None of us actually decided to do that. It was actually a decision taken for us by these monstrosities, these nepotists, these retards. And that's where the word retard belongs, with those that have been running the planet, because they've done such an evil, terrible, dreadful job, and are all being taken down and all hauled onto the carpet one by one individually. And their sins have been seen and found, and they will be heard, and they will speak before the light in all of us. Oh yes, you will, make no mistake. Cathy O'Brien.
I love it.
Me too. She's good.
She's amazing.
Well,
you go. I love it when you do this.
Well, I've not so many F-bombs, it's hard. It's a very difficult subject to emote, of course, without going crazy and being my 15-year-old angry, rebellious self, but trying to deliver into the field the reality of where we are. But now we're going to get even darker, unfortunately. Cathy, I'm going to come to you. There are people out there, there are women, let's say Christian women, people with a religion, other people who are owned by a partner, owned by siblings, owned by parents in their thinking, that would be told, oh, well, when she was a little girl, she must have done something. You know, she must have tempted the priest, the vicar, the pope, the cardinal, the bishop, whatever. She must have had the devil in her. She must have this and that. We've all been told this. I know this journey. We've all been told that. It must be your fault. Cathy, could you take us into some of the grooming that your father did to you from birth and how you were programmed to respond to a sexually aroused male, for example, please, so people can get a bit of a clue into what happens to a broken.
It's all I ever knew. I didn't know that there was any other way than to do exactly what I was told to do. So I was thrust into that so early on. And after my father sold me into the CIA's MK Ultra project, it is a very scientific, systematic formula that is the same for individuals, nations, or the world. It's and trauma is the basis of it. And then there's manipulation of the subconscious mind, because our subconscious mind doesn't have a filter. When our conscious mind isn't there to protect it, it's just information in, and it takes it in very literally with no ability to question, reason, any of it. It just gets put into the mind, and it blurs the line on fantasy and reality. And our conscious mind is very important as our filter, so that we can make our decisions. Without that filter, there was no decision that I could make. I could only do exactly what I was told to do. Then I was taken to various military, NASA, and DARPA installations where sophisticated technological aspects of programming came into being, until I was completely robotic and used on a White House Pentagon level. So for a long, long, long time, I didn't have any capacity to think a thought of my own. I remember when I was just about 5 years old, before the tortures became so much that I couldn't think at all anymore. I remember thinking, and I remember wishing there was some place in the world where people didn't hurt each other, where people could treat each other good and just care. There was something inside of me that knew that what I was experiencing is not the way that life is supposed to be. Even though my whole environment was saturated in it, I couldn't turn to law enforcement. I couldn't turn to politicians, my parents. I couldn't turn to the church. I had nowhere to turn. So I didn't know, but still inside of me, I just knew there had to be something more. And I had this, like, a profound knowing in my spirit that somehow there should be more. And whenever I was tortured, and I was tortured often, my spirit was always in a safe, loving space. It's like my spirit took flight. We hear about people who've been maybe in a really bad car accident or something, and they feel like they're looking over the top of the situation. There might be a thread of light attaching to the body or whatever. And so much in my MK Ultra experience was that way. It was like, no matter what evil was being done, my spirit was in a safe, loving space. And it was in that safe, loving space that there was that hope beyond hope, that knowing that whatever it was that carried me through, the strength to be able to endure my experience. So that when I regained conscious thought in my healing process after Mark rescued me, it was as though I had access to that knowing again. And it was such a joy to be able to consciously experience that and know that how I had been carried through the whole time, that I had been able to survive it because it is wrong. If it's the way life would have been, it's supposed to be, that's I guess that's what I'd have been stuck in, but I'm not. Well, here we are on the other side and bringing the truth to light so that no other children have to suffer through that. Many of them will never be able to think, to bring to mind the unspeakable that they experienced. And for them, I will forever give them voice. I will always stand strong and make sure that someone understands that this is more pervasive now than ever. And now that we're aware of it, it's up to each and every one of us to take a stand and stop this. This has been going on far too long. This multi-generational effects of it have made it where parents, like my mother, she was multi-generationally abused. She couldn't stop what was happening. She delighted in it at times. She contributed to it at times, and she couldn't stop it in any way because of her own conditioning and her own abuse. She never realized that it was wrong. She never had that realization. So there's a lot of people now. We're seeing parents that are taking their children to these sexual grooming shows that are so perverse and twisted, and trafficking their own children out and acting like it's exactly what they're supposed to do. But it's been that generational conditioning. That generational conditioning doesn't make it okay. I had generational conditioning and I rose above it all because the power of the human spirit and our life's purpose is so much stronger than even our genetic inherent knowledge that we can overcome anything and we can stop this. We just got to understand how very wrong it is and dare to open our eyes and realize that it's happening, and dare to realize that we have that strength within us all. We just need to go within, tap into it, gain that strength of spirit, and all take a stand against this dark agenda. It's within to do it.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Cathy. I don't think there's anything more powerful than the human mind, and I don't think there's anything more powerful than the ability to overcome. And people don't tend to use that enough. And I guess what I'm here to say is in the overcoming of anything, we must first of all, and Cathy mentioned it at the beginning, we've got to go within, because I'm speaking to the beautiful survivors watching. Hello, lovely ones. Is that there, you know, we're told, aren't we, to go outside ourselves, to read this, to do that, to speak to that person. And I'm here to say, actually, just take a breath, go within. Notice what you're getting from the inside, because the beautiful signs you're being shown and the path made clear is going to be lit, and it's going to be lit for you. And one of the things we do know is that we have potential among us and within us, and we don't tend to tap into it because we get so caught up with staying trapped by the narrative we were either taught or by what we did once the abuse stopped, which was to keep abusing by underestimating and not recognizing the power that lies within. So, beautiful ones, please know the light is yours. Which is the right way to do this? There is no right way. It's your way. So I just want to share that.
Thank you so much, both of you. I have a beautiful friend. His name is Tony Rodriguez. And when he was a little boy, he was taken and he was sold by a satanic family into the military industrial complex. This includes Army, Navy, all the aspects of a military environment, of which there are child torture programs and have been for many, many years. My friend Tony Rodriguez survived, and luckily, and for us, that he's blessed us with his information, his intel, and his life. You know, his life. His book is called Ceres, SERES, as in the space star colony, Ceres, Colony Cavalier. In his testimony, Tony Rodriguez, he shares that when he was put into a child torture program in the airport called Inyokan in California, there were these mobile structures that the children were put into, and these children were sat in seats that hung from the ceiling, and a bar would go across, and they would put helmets on them, and they would electrocute the children as they made them watch Disney programs and horror movies, and they were doing tests on them, you know, looking at ways to control, psychologically manipulate, disassociate. And of course, there was horrific, horrendous sexual abuse too. So again, to say that this has been going on for a long, long time. Tony's in his early 50s at this time. And it takes such courage, and there is so much pushback always, and threats and harm and scares and terrible things that happen to loved ones, to friends, to family consistently. However, the more that we stay in the shadows, the more this darkness pervades and exists. And like you said, Cathy O'Brien, it is worse today than ever. There are more children, some unbeknown to their parents, who are being put through these torture programs, these brainwashing programs. It is so difficult to imagine that any kind of adult would find sexual gratification in a child, in a little tiny baby, a little boy, a little girl. It's just beyond sick. But people also, I'm a therapist, people also need to understand on a level of psychology, if you look at somebody, let's just say a man, because women equally can be as bad, of course. If you look at a man who's a multi-gazillionaire, he's had it all, he's done it all, he's had all the sex you can shake a stick at, done all the drugs, had the cars, this to that, he's still looking for that adrenal high. He's still looking for some kind of a physical, emotional payoff. These are the people that go the extra mile. These are some of the people that will go all the way in. There are others equally at the other end of the financial situation who are broke, but will still do the same thing. An easier example to start understanding how the human mind reaches out for a higher orgasm, a bigger thrill, a physical payoff, an emotional payoff. Imagine a woman's having an affair, and she doesn't want her husband to know, and she's holding onto her phone, and she'll leave the phone and run in the bathroom to quickly text him. The amount of adrenaline that rushes through a body is such a high, it becomes an addiction that some of us don't even realize we are part of. For those of you that can't wrap your head around the fact that there are adults, grown adults, in the highest positions on this planet that do the dreadful things to children that Cathy and Gloria have suffered, maybe this will help you open other gateways in your mind. Maybe you've shut something down that happened to you, but please do not go into fake drama, looking for a reason to hide the pain of something else that's happened to you, and then use Cathy's story or use Gloria's story. That is another level of trauma that we suffer when they're called screen memories too. Cathy, can you speak a little bit to that, please?
Yes, well, when people endure trauma, if they haven't dealt with their childhood abuse, they're still highly suggestible. They still got neuron pathways shut down in their mind, and they're very easy to trigger and activate. And people need to, heal from the trauma that they experience so that they don't take on make up a story about what happened to them. It's healing from within gives us the ability to not be triggered anymore. And I've seen so many survivors who have been coming out lately, and they come running out of that hell, and they maybe high level, especially out of Disney or something that where a lot of mind control is pervasive. They'll come running out of that house saying, this is my handler, this is what happened to me. And then bam, they're taken right back in because they haven't healed completely. People need to heal completely and know their own truth. And then that way they'll be able to tell that truth without being triggered back in or whatever. They'll have that strength from within themselves. But until that healing occurs, they're still very vulnerable. And so there's a lot of key words that people use. They will call themselves whatever the buzzword of the moment is, or what the stories that are out there of the moment are about. I was in the underground base in Project Monarch, and whatever it is they've heard, they take that on. And what they've experienced is absolutely every bit as horrific or whatever, but they're not voicing that truth because of that heightened suggestibility. When they heal from within, they'll realize, oh, Project Monarch is a very small sub-project of MK Ultra that is a multi-generational bloodline, project. And these underground bases, as reality as they are, most abuse happens right in plain sight because it's an invisible menace and people don't think to look for it. And people who are experiencing that, no matter what level of abuse it is, when they start realizing they've been abused and they reach out for help and understanding and want somebody to know, and they get rejected, then they want to maybe say a name that will trigger people to pay attention to them then. And they'll, it's how it grows. And then all of a sudden the truth is lost and the healing doesn't happen. And it doesn't matter if somebody believes you or not. What's important is that you know your own truth. And from there is where true healing can happen. When I first started speaking out, it was about 1990, and I was speaking out to help my daughter, who had been thrust into the corrupted so-called child protective services, which is what they do if someone gets away from the human trafficking operations. The system has been corrupted and structured to bring them back in. And that's what happened to her. And I was giving voice. It was love for her that compelled me to speak out and tell everybody that she had been trafficked. She was under mind control and the system was abusing her further. And people weren't really very eager to hear it in 1990. They didn't know what human trafficking was. They didn't know how pervasive and corrupt the system was becoming. They didn't know how high level some of this went. And then there were a few people who were starting to see it because they were experiencing corruption in the courts too. And they would speak out. But the fact is, when I was speaking out, people didn't want to believe me. How sweet is that people are so pure and good, they didn't want to believe that horror existed. And to me, that was not such a bad thing. To me, it just meant they're on their learning path. They need to get further down that path in order to embrace my truth and know what's going on. And I consider truth to be seeds planted. Truth never goes away. It's going to blossom eventually. They're going to see it eventually. So I would just keep planting those seeds of truth. But because I had healed from within, I didn't need anyone else to confirm it for me. I didn't need them to tell me I was right. I already knew what was true. So that was very helpful. And it also gave me ears to hear other people's truth. There were so many. You mentioned that guy who was affected by the child abuse in the military. Very often they're not going to get confirmation or understanding or compassion when they reach out to other people. They need to heal first so that they can withstand whatever other people's reactions are going to be. That's why it's so important that we all go within, write out that memory, heal from within, and reclaim our own inner strength.
So look, there's
a
couple of things. Cathy, you're saying so many amazing things. Okay, Danny, if I just cut in. I think, we're talking about what's happening here on a global level. We know it's not new. We know this goes back generations, actually. But I guess one of the things I wanted to bring up was hiding in plain sight. So you both would have seen the clip with the Dalai Lama. Holy hell. That man with that young boy, and you notice the gatekeepers around him laughed when he asked the young boy to suck his tongue. Would you like to suck my tongue? Now, right there, let's call it for what it is. He's grooming, it's child sexual abuse. It's on a scale that it just shows me how prevalent this is and that actually it's everywhere. So I think we need to be really mindful that it doesn't matter who you might say you are. If you're abusing kids, that's who you are. The other thing I guess I wanted to bring up was that, we know that the prevalence of this is probably even bigger than what we hear. But that for most good people, what happens is, you guys may not realize it, but you're being groomed as well, as am I. And we're being groomed. You know, you talked earlier, Danny, about these men and women who are looking for their next high. And, you know, if it's child sexual abuse, that's what they'll go to. Actually, I just want to bring to your attention, you watch any music video, and I am in no way a prude, any music video that our young children see, it's highly sexualized, it's highly eroticized. It is seen as, oh, that's so cool, I want to be like that. But what's happened is, over time and over decades, that sexualization of our children and that grooming has become more the norm than not. And so the adults around them, the parents, the caregivers, the grandparents, are all thinking, well, yes, but you can't watch a horror movie. And yet all of these things are happening in plain sight. So I think it's yeah, what do you think, Danny?
Well, the Dalai Lama is a tough one, and I think we should address it for a couple of reasons. So what we saw was a clip of something that actually I spoke about it on another broadcast, and it literally made me retch, like gag, because the thought of sucking an old man's tongue is just disgusting. I don't care who he is. What I will tell you is this: one of my friends, who is a Hawaiian elder, met the Dalai Lama back in the 1970s, and this beautiful, loving stories she has about this man who was 30, 40 years younger. He was not who he is today. None of us were, you know what I mean? We grow. But I'm saying that at one point, this man was loved and honored and revered, and has been. Now, I am not, of course, condoning, as you know, why on earth would I have YouTube on, for example, you icons, in disclosure of this vile, situation. But there are people that have come back and said, no, it was a moment. It's a cultural thing. You know, we show our tongues, we to make sure they're not black, because that meant something in the Tibetan culture or the, Chinese culture. And there's been a lot of excuses around why he did that. And, that the boy was fine. He didn't mind. It was okay. He was happy to get a hug from the Dalai Lama. Other people are saying he's got dementia, onset of dementia. Whatever happened, the little child inside of every adult that saw that, the little girl in us, the little boy in the grown men, we will have some kind of a response. My response was horror, because I can remember adults trying to put themselves on me. And that's where my inner child went when I saw that boy who looked uncomfortable, who didn't know what to do with the tongue. So I'm not saying that the Dalai Lama is a pedo. I don't know for definite. I'm not in his room at night. And this is the danger too, Cathy. I'm sure you, Cathy and Gloria, there are people out there today who are saying this one's a satanic, this one's a pedophile, famous people that we know. There are people making videos on me, calling me the same thing because I took a photograph with somebody years ago. It is so dangerous for us to say the names without bringing the proof. The absolute proof. You mentioned
people snap judge so fast.
Oh my God.
And it's become stronger after social media too. It's just quick, snap, judge, without even thinking or considering. And people want to judge people fastest, when in fact we need to be judging information. We need to be judging truth, not a snap judge either. We need to do some research and get some things figured out and realize that every sacred institution has been infiltrated to some degree, whether it's the education system or if it's churches or whatever aspect of society is, it's been infiltrated. That doesn't make everything that has been taught in those institutions wrong since the beginning of time. It means it's been infiltrated and there's misinformation, and we need to start separating that and judging it. Where truth is found, we need to embrace it. Where something inspires us to think further, that's a beautiful a beautiful thing that we all individually need to do, but we need to stop the snap judgment and labeling, this constant labeling of people, and start, taking a little bit more time to think things through. And I don't mean to allow for this kind of abuse to continue any further. We need to wise up to it fast and realize the effect that it's having, and to realize that if a child is recoiling, just, and like it makes them uncomfortable, we should respect that. That child's uncomfortable for a reason that's very basic within our human nature, and that needs to be respected in itself. So if someone has wisdom, then they need to, be paying attention to that kind of thing. If they have lost their path and lost their ability to even be wise anymore, then maybe that's a good time to retire. We need to take a different look at things that's not quite so snap judgmental, and realize that everything's been infiltrated. As we go forward, we need to take care of our planet, take care of each other, have compassion for each other, realize that we've had so much conditioning going on a global scale for a long time with this infiltration, that we need to help each other along the way to start expanding our thinking, and not expect everyone to be able to grasp the magnitude of it all right away, but realize, okay, those seeds are planted. You're going to see it one way or the other. It's like people want to bury their heads in the sand, and that sand is in an hourglass, and that sand's running out, and eventually they're going to see it's happening, and people are waking up. And as it happens, we need to slow down and stop snap judging everything and everybody. So
Yeah.
I think the reason I kind of saw it the way I did, and I appreciate your comment, Danny, and that we will respond the way depending on our history and our triggers. I guess for me, I turned the volume off and I just watched, and the body spoke volumes, and that's what made me realize this child's uncomfortable and he has no option. So it's just very, very, very sad to see.
People like you ladies in particular are going to have the most heightened senses. Let's not kid ourselves. The kind of torture and rape and abuse that you both went through, surely every time you're laying there wondering, am I going to die today? Are they actually going to kill me? Nobody can truly fathom the level of torture and torment that you girls have suffered unless they themselves have gone through it. We all think, oh, I can't imagine all that. I try and imagine. You can't even touch that. So of course your response is, oh my gosh, Gloria, I'm with you on that, and goodness me, and Cathy, I want to ask you something that I know other people would have wondered that you mentioned. You mentioned your daughter, Kelly. Can we talk about Kelly? Is that okay?
Sure. There's not a whole lot that I say about her now, because she's living her own life freely and living the love she is, spends a lot of time in nature, and enjoys the simpler things in life that I think as we all take back our freedom, that's something we're all going to be doing a lot more of, is just enjoying the simpler things and taking care of our planet, and enjoying growing things, and kind of getting away from some of the technological aspects. She went through a lot. She was born into the into MK Ultra, and was used as a very young child, and was horrifically abused. To me, there was no torture that I experienced worse than knowing my daughter was abused and not being able to do anything about it. That is the most horrific thing of all. And then after Mark rescued us and she ended up in the a political prisoner, really, in the custody of the corrupted Child Protective Services and mental health system, and was abused further in there. And that was horrific, to not be able to affect that situation fast enough to have her in my loving arms, where I could finally raise her the way that I've always wanted, that's innate to me, that I always, wanted to protect her. And I was told if I did this, then it would protect her and she wouldn't be abused. Come to find out, she was being told the same thing, that if she took the abuse, that I wouldn't be. And when we realized that with each other, that was such a powerful moment between us. But so much of that kind of connection, that depth of connection, that depth of knowing, was always there. The love was always there. We always knew, no matter what our lives entailed, no matter what we were enduring and what we were going through, we still knew that with each other. That love, that strength of mind, that strength of spirit that we all have, it can't be broken. It can't be broken, and it stays. And that's what she's freely living today, and where she's at today. And she chooses not to add her voice. She chooses not to be public, because she's happy right where she's at. And I can't think of anything greater than that. And there's a lot of survivors like her that want to, just embrace their joy. One thing I found in healing, and one thing that she found too, is that once we gained a concept of awareness and a concept of time, and we were consciously aware of things, we found that there's a thing like timing that happens. It's even more important. I mean, so important. When you're living life's purpose, you're in this harmonious flow. There's a synchronicity. There's all these coincidences that align. There's all this amazing miracles that happen in our lives to confirm that we're on the right path. And whatever she's experiencing and whatever I'm experiencing, all of a sudden will reconverge with this amazing synchronistic miracle. And life has a way of giving those to us when we are in the right space, when we are living our life's purpose, when we're living our strength of spirit, when we're living the love we are true to soul. The miracles that happen are amazing. And it's so worth whatever anybody goes through in their healing process. Keep on. Healing is a process. It's not an event. It takes a lot of time to heal, and it's worth every step, and it's worth it to get to the point where you can experience that. And while people are so busy looking outside themselves for big government, big tech, big cult, big whatever to live their lives for them, they're missing out on the miracles that happen when we live our life's purpose true to soul. So just to even remember that, I think that Kelly is one of the most shining examples of that I have ever seen in my life. The strength of spirit that she's had to overcome so much, to be able to live that. We all can. It's within us all. And it's time that we embrace that. And that's what she loves for. It's just waiting for people to wake up and embrace that again and live that love too. So, yeah, she's an amazing miracle.
So wonderful to hear, especially as you lived the life and then your child was, in it with no chance of getting out, and yet she's come out the other side and has chosen a way for her to be with her mind, body and soul. Again, to honor the survivor in all of you, all of us, all of the people out there that watch this and know there is something that they can always do, and coming together and sharing, or watching and owning self. And I've always said, as a therapist for many years, to me, the greatest way to heal so much in life is to honor that little child in all of us, that little girl, that little boy. For me, that's where healing always begins. And I've often invited people to sit their 3-year-old on their lap, you know, their inner 3-year-old little child on their lap, and imagine wrapping their arms around that babe and sitting and rocking and letting whatever needs to come up, but speak to that child, parent the inner child in you. Because we often come to understand that all of us that have gone through trauma, abuse, and suffering, which is pretty much the whole planet, albeit on very different levels, that we are the adults that we were waiting for, largely, that we are the only ones that can really understand what we've all endured on different levels. And there's never someone that can say no. And there's a beauty in that, to know no matter what threats, what violence, what horrors that people like yourselves have gone through, that there's always something within that is a light, that is your soul spark, that can't be dulled or dimmed, and you two are living proof of that, and it's wonderful to see. Gloria, I want to come to you. I want to ask you, if I may, about the cancer that you went through. We often find that many people who have gone through a trauma then it's a dis-ease within them that accumulates into something such as a cancer. Can you talk about the cancer that you had and where it was in the body, please?
Yes, sure. So I'm still absorbing the beautiful words you were just saying, Danny. My little 3-year-old's going, yes. But so thank you for that. That's beautiful. So look, the cancer, I was in my early 30s. I had 2 small children. I had in the last 12 months started the recall, and everything flooding back at me in terms of memory. And so what happened was I'd been to the doctor. I hadn't been feeling great. And the doctor had said, well, look, we're going to do some testing. And it turned out that I had cervical cancer. And back in the 90s, there was stages, and it was 1, 2, or 3, and 3 being the most severe, and I had it. So it's no surprise that it was cancer, you know, in the cervical region, considering the trauma that my body had experienced. Now, at the time, my marriage had ended. I had 2 small children, one of whom was critically unwell with a heart condition. And I just knew I had to beat this cancer. And the doctor came to my house one night, and I thought, goodness me, what's wrong? And she said, look, Gloria, this is really serious. I want you in hospital, and I want you in there now, because I believe this is going, you know, this is a death sentence, really. You need to get in there. And I said, look, just give me 3 weeks. I don't know why I chose 3 weeks. Just give me 3 weeks to try and do something about this myself. And she said, all right, but if you don't, I'm not threatening you, but I'm saying we'll have to look at taking the kids off you, because you can't look after them being this unwell. So I thought, look, I was desperate. And in those days, my spiritual path was just developing. It wasn't anywhere near what it is now. But I was following Wayne Dwyer and Louise Hay, and their words just stuck with me in the art of visualizing. So what I did was I saw the cancer in my mind, and I just put white light, kind of white rain trickling down and dissolving it. So whenever the cancer came to mind, I just saw this image of it breaking down and disappearing. And I also had the words and the visualization in my head. The children were 2 and 4, and I thought, I visualized them at 12 and 14, 10 years time, and me being with them. And of course I had no idea of what they'd be like, but that's what I visualized. And I just kept doing it out of fear, out of worry, out of frustration, but absolute belief, I've got to do this. So I did. And then I went back, I had to go into hospital 3 weeks later, and they were all ready to remove the cancer that was there. And I went in and they did a scan, and then the doctor came back into the room and spoke to the nurse and came over. They even looked at the wristband. You know how you wear a wristband when you're in hospital with your name and ID. Even he said, "You're Gloria Masters." Yes. Anyway, he said, "Oh, can you just, get dressed, come into the room next door. I just need to talk to you. I don't think we're going to proceed today." So I went into the room next door. "This will get you, Cathy." And he said the words, it still blows me away today. He said, "There is no sign of any cancer. Whatever it is completely gone." And I went, "What?" And I went, "Yes." And he said, "What did you do?" And I said, "I don't want to tell you because I don't want you kind of, not rubbishing me, but criticizing, or, this is big for me. I just want to hold the joy of this and the power of this." And he said, "Please tell me." And I said, "Look, I visualized and this is how I did it." And he came from behind his desk, shook my hand, and he said, "Congratulations." He said, "I've never heard of this in New Zealand. I've heard of this in the States, but well done. You are 100% cancer-free."
So beautiful. So happy for you. So happy after
So
all the trauma. Yeah. We're amazing how we can and have done and do heal our bodies, our minds, our souls, our spirits when we ourselves allow ourselves to take control of this and go inside here and be the love that we are, Cathy, which is something you always say. Be the love that you are, live the love that you are, which is such a wonderful thing to say. And again, we're not running away with the fairies here. We're actually speaking in real terms of part of the power that has been kept from us beautiful humans. We are the greatest technology on the planet. We are the greatest organic biome on the planet. The genius is beyond explanation, and we've never been fully told on the planet how actually magnificent we truly are, because the systems that have been running our planet don't want us to know that. And people say, "Why have I suffered so much? Why is my life so hard?" Well, it's hard because it was designed that way, my love. All of our lives were designed that way. We were designed to be under the cosh. We were designed to be under control for a couple of 100 years going on now. We wouldn't have a single illness on the planet had the technology that was created by people like Nikola Tesla, for example, been allowed to be. If Edison hadn't been allowed to block AC/DC, not the rock band, alternate current and direct current, for example. We know the stories, they're out there. Now is the time to collapse them all in together. This is the time of disclosure on our planet. This is the time for shining the light back in the faces of the darkness. Because once you shine that light, there's not an ounce of darkness left, and we all know that. These ladies are testament to recovering from the most awful, horrific, unthinkable situations as little baby girls. Look at them now. Strong, beautiful women, strong leaders, strong voices in the face of darkness. Cathy, I'd like to come to you for you to please share with us the book you wrote and what we can expect to see in that beautiful book.
PTSD Time to Heal. It has so many wonderful tricks in it, including visualizing healing the body, it going ahead in time and seeing it healed, and seeing the future that, some doctors tell us isn't going to be, that is possible. I found that in like military special forces, mind control programming can reach so far into the brain that they have no time to bleed. So they can take a bullet, not bleed, keep going, complete their mission, have this superhuman strength because their brain is not registering that they should be worn out and tired. And this is special forces programming. I shouldn't have mentioned a name of a particular programmer that's military, but nevertheless, he did. That's exactly what he did, was that kind of programming. If someone so evil and vile can do that externally in our brains, imagine what we can do with the strength of the human spirit, the power of love, the acceptance of the gift of healing that is within us all, we can regulate our heartbeat, our blood flow. We can heal ourselves. We have capacities that have just been perfectly described by Gloria. And it does happen when we have been manipulated so much from the outside. We learn the ins and outs of our brains, and like, wow, we have more capacity than people realize we have, because we've been looking outside ourselves so long, we forgot we have these abilities. And really, that's what PTSD Time to Heal is all about, is reminding us of those abilities within ourselves. It reminds us to use simple tricks like moving a pen. Mark told me, write out your memory, because those neuron pathways in my brain were opening up around age 30. Electrochemical changes happen in our brains and happen in our bodies. And very often, those neuron pathways in the brain start leaking memory then. There's so many people in their 30s that start remembering repressed childhood memory, that repressed memory that was compartmentalized in the brain. And I was turning 30, those electrochemical changes were happening, but also I was safe for the first time. Even though I couldn't think to trust Mark at the time, my brain knew I was safe, just like my brain knew that my father's sexual abuse of me was wrong when I was an infant and shut those compartments down. My brain knew I was safe, and it was opening up. So as this memory was coming out, Mark handed me a pen and he said, pen's mightier than the sword. Write out your memory. Write out all those things you'd been tortured to forget. So I started writing by hand, not typing. Typing doesn't activate the same part of the brain. If you move a pen, it activates the logic part of the brain, the critical analysis part of the brain. So it takes repressed memory that's too horrible to comprehend, so emotionally incomprehensible, shifts it over to the logic part of the brain as it's being written out by hand. And all of a sudden it's on a paper in front of you where you're consciously seeing it, and you got healing happening on the psychiatric, psychological, the emotional, everything all at once with that simple trick of moving a pen, because it opens the neuron pathways in the brain and it activates it, all this knowing. So all of a sudden I'm consciously realizing what I'd been forced to do under mind control, and I was appalled. It was so disgusted. It was like, I did that. How am I ever going to live with myself? And Mark told me, he said, you are not responsible for what you were tortured to do under mind control. Your abusers are responsible for that. And they need to be held accountable for that. They will be someday.
Yes.
They'll be held accountable.
Yes. Sad the ones that died. May I jump in there just very quickly, just to give an example that I remember you saying? I'm not going to name her name. I think she's dead though. A very, very, very senior politician saw you at a party where you were being abused and ordered for you to come to her office and perform oral sex upon her. This is a person in the public friggin' eye that did that. These are the kinds of things that happen in our governments, that happen with these people who are put in touch with making decisions for the whole world. These are what these people have done and do. Is that not right, Cathy?
That's so true. And they have kept us from our birthright knowledge. They have taken writing by hand out of the school system pretty much around the world, definitely in the US. And it's so the children are indoctrinated with information. We used to write, and it was a way of critically analyzing and processing information. So it's not just pumped into the subconscious, it's applicable knowledge. It's important to have that. Well, as I was healing and realizing what I had been tortured to do, I thought, you know, how am I going to ever love myself? Because people said, you got to love yourself, you know? And it was like, I couldn't do daily affirmations. I couldn't do anything that would make me love myself until I looked deep within and found who I am at the base core energy of my being. And that energy is love. And once I realized that, it was like, oh, I can just live the love I am. That's a lot easier than going through that other process. And by doing that, I realized my life's purpose. I was able to find that strength of spirit and actually move forward. Up until that point, I loved Mark. I mean, he was so handsome. He was my hero. He was everything. And I wanted him so much, and he didn't want anything to do with me. He said, you need to know who you are first in order to have something to give in a relationship. Wow, was that ever motive to heal? So I'm writing as fast as I can, by that point, so that I could heal. And yes, we did. We fell in love from that, after I knew who I was. And we just, it was like my soulmate. It was the most beautiful thing from that point going forward. And, I was able to experience so much joy in life because I'd picked up that pen and used that brain trick. We all need to do that. Mark told me then, he said, voice no negatives without a solution, because it would have been easy to just complain about everything I had been forced to do and what had happened. And instead he said, no, you have to think of a solution before you can voice it. Well, I didn't know how to think for myself. That forced my brain to work in a way that I never had before, and opened more neuron pathways in my brain. And it was like, it lifted me above the storm where I could see a path forward, where I could see for the first time in my life. Voice no negatives without a solution. Simple thing like that. These are the kind of things that are in PTSD Time to Heal that really empower us all and help us all to make note. What's holding us back? What's immobilizing us? What is our fear? What is our trauma? Write it out. Add a solution. And all of a sudden, we can lift above that. Instead of being in that dark pit of negativity, we can rise above it, see a path forward, get outside, walk in nature, breathe in the air, hug a tree, feel the earth underneath our feet, listen to the animals, watch how they intercommunicate. All of that, just embrace those. There's some of the tips in PTSD Time to Heal are the simplest things. Mark taught me to break my routine patterns. And if I broke my routine patterns, it forced my brain to think in new ways. If we park our car in the same spot every day and all of a sudden we park it somewhere else, we got to think about it, to find it. And so it expands our thought and it exercises the brain. So there's a lot of little tips in there that are really simple, birthright information that when we look at it, we're like, well, of course, because it's our truth. It's been within us all along. We just all need to be reminded that it's within us to reclaim that and live our life's purpose, live our joy, live our love, and move forward, regardless of what life has thrown at us, regardless of what we have experienced, regardless of what we have been tortured and forced to do. This is our time now to live our own choices, to take responsibility for our own lives. Responsibility to me is a beautiful thing. It's the ability to respond, to make that choice, to live the love, to bring truth to light. We get so many wonderful choices when we start thinking free, and living life the way it was intended to all along.
That's so beautiful. Please hold that book up so people can recognize the cover.
It's PTSD Time to Heal. It's very small because it's within us all. It's just a reminder. It's not about me. It's about every one of us and who we are inside. It reminds us to look within. So I encourage everyone to look into that, regardless of what we've experienced. If I reapplied PTSD Time to Heal when Mark passed away in 2017, I lost my hero, my soulmate. I knew I was traumatized. I knew I was vulnerable and suggestible. So I applied it. I wrote poetry. I wrote so many poems. I vented them out and I added solutions. I wrote so many beautiful, profound poems. Now, when I look back on them, it's like, wow, no wonder I was able to make it through that time, to make the choice, the conscious choice, to honor Mark with every breath that I take, to honor him by staying strong in who I am, the way that he showed me I could be. and to carry his love forward. My heart didn't break in two, it swelled to double size. I carry his love with me. And with that, wow, are my memories profound. I have so many beautiful memories with him that I have available to me now instead of traumatic memories. I have these beautiful memories. I have memories of profound pearls of wisdom that he encouraged me with and shared with me that I applied today. So everyone, everywhere can use this just to make their life easier, to think beyond what controlled media tells us, to be able to be empowered again and live the beauty of our life's purpose. This is our time. We're here for a reason. We're here for a purpose. Let's live it all together now. Here we go.
I love it. I love it. Cathy, thank you so much. And also your incredible book that had a lot of Mark's input, Transformation of America. Do you have a copy of that? You could show us the cover. It's like when you say about if you're in a routine, right? Such an important book. Such an important book.
This is the memories I wrote out that were validated by clean members of law enforcement and intelligence, and national security was invoked on it from in Congress by the perpetrators that it names. The names are in here and the details. And it was written in 1995 and really detailed much of what we're experiencing today. I wish it hadn't been censored and that people could have had that information then, you know, so that maybe we wouldn't have to be going through these times today. But nevertheless, the information is there for those who want it. And it's secured on my website at trance-formation.com. And while we're at it, this is a much easier read than trance. This tells Mark's and my journey through the corrupted justice and mental health system. It's our love story. It's a testament to the strength of the human spirit and power of love. It shows where roots of corruption are planted so that other people can avoid those and be able to navigate through this system until we get it cleaned up and put back into its proper perspective where it protects our children and empowers justice again. So that's a very, very powerful book too, but they're secured on my website because otherwise a lot of my information has been pirated and altered and put as free ebooks all over the internet, promoting the dark side and saying there's no ability to heal. So I encourage everyone, you know, as we're reclaiming our truth and recognizing truth in others, be sure to go to the source for the information and not just get what's being handed out freely to dilute truth. So truth is censored and it's diluted, but it's secured on my website right now at trance-formation.com.
Beautiful, Cathy. Thank you for that. So it's trance-formation.com. So any of the works that Cathy's taken her lifetime to present for you guys to help your healing as well and your understanding of all the dark systems on her website only, please. Okay, Gloria, let's come to you, Angel Face. Please, will you share with us both of the books that you have written and put into the field to support humanity and heal for yourself?
Thank you very much. So look, the first one is my memoir on Angel's Wings, My Flight from Trauma to Grace. And it depicts the 11-year-old girl that was me looking down and the angel wings coming around her and beneath her. So this book details the 16 years of my life, what I went through as a trafficked girl for all of that time, and the fact that there was no one living adult around me who I could trust. And so including law enforcement, because of their involvement, it was just not safe for me. But I did find my angels, which is why it's on Angel's Wings. Sorry, that's possibly a bit hard to see. but so they're very much a part of my life. Now they're great big angels, big ass angels, I call them. And they don't just give me a little flutter, they push me. So my purpose in life is actually their purpose for me. And so we're all down here together doing some stuff, and you can see what that is. What I'm actually doing, for those that aren't aware, is we do have gloriamasters.com where you can get the books, and I do the speaking. But I also have set up a charity called Handing the Shame Back Foundation. And it's at that place that you can get resources. You can kind of look at all the videos and the interviews I do with other survivors across the world. You can get some help and support there. So that's for the wonderful survivors watching. The second book, and I had Danny in tears with this one when I brought it to her, was Flight Path to Healing. And this is a guide for child sexual abuse, adult survivors of child sexual abuse. And this is designed as a flight path, really. So each section in the book is specific to the survivor journey. So it might be that one of them might be shame. And we all know as survivors that's something we carry until we learn more about the shame never belonged to us. Another section might be on feeling different. So I go through each of those. It's a working guide, and you have capacity and space to write in there. There are directed questions for you to work through. There are mantras as well, and they are perforated so that you can actually take the page out of the book and put it somewhere special for yourself. And then we've lost Cathy. And then we end the book with a survivor degree, and it is a passport which entitles the traveller to live the rest of their life in peace and harmony. This cannot be returned, refunded, or exchanged. The bearer has waited a lifetime for this trip. So that's that very last page in the book, and again, it can be perforated and removed. So it's a flight path for survivors, and they can all be purchased on gloriamasters.com.
Gloria, so beautiful. Both of you have put such incredible work out into the world, out into the field. Despite what's happened to you, your strength, your soul, your spirit, just giving love back, being the love that you are. And I know I speak on behalf of billions. We're so grateful that you're here, that you're standing on the shoulders of everybody, you know, who's tried to keep your stories down and to keep bringing the spirit of humanity up and love up. It's just beyond incredible. There are other people out there. Tim Ballard of the organization Operation Underground Railroad, who is often out there rescuing children from trafficking situations across the planet, as it's such a prevalent, awful. I remember at one point hearing years ago, all ancient artifacts are actually a larger commodity or ring around the world than drugs, but actually we've come to understand that it's the humans, the big ones and the little ones, and that's what's happening, and that's why we are shining such a bright, hard light on it. And we will not stop. Bess, you know that. I think the dark ones, the deletes, as we like to call them, in certain groups, the people that put themselves in positions of power, that all sold their souls to the devil, that all did these dreadful, heinous things, you better know what time it is. You need to know you're outgunned and outthought and outlighted. And your darkness has nowhere else left to stain our beautiful planet. And you are required to leave immediately, right now. Goodbye. Cathy, I would love to come to you for final words, darling.
I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation and the beauty that you both have brought forth to such a dark subject. It's hard for people to embrace this kind of information unless it's presented in the love light that you bring. And I've just thoroughly enjoyed the conversation with you both. Thank you so much for this opportunity to join you and add my voice to it. And wow, this is amazing. I know it will empower many to heal and many to find the strength within them to start making a positive difference right where they're at, and to realize the beauty of this life that we're intended to live, that they know inside themselves should be happening. It's our time. This is our time. It's our time to shine. It's our time to unite. And it's on that strength of spirit, that power of love is where we all naturally unite. We are the most powerful force in the universe, and we're not going to take any more manipulation by this dark negative energy force anymore. We win. Truth prevails. Love always wins.
Love always wins. Love does. Thank you, darling Cathy O'Brien.
Thank you.
Gloria Masters.
Oh, thank you. Cathy, such a privilege to meet you. I had read your book, your first one, Transformation, and I've followed you and looked at the wonderful energy you give back to the world. So thank you. And Danny, of course, you little star, you're just out there continuously giving and helping so many. Thank you. I think from me to always to the beautiful survivors is, you know, you're never alone, and I stand beside you and I believe you, and that's really powerful. I also think even if today, if out of everything you've heard today, even if you just take one action, one small action, and if it includes some self-love and some self-care, that would mean a lot. So thank you from me.
Beautiful. Gloria Masters, thank you so much. I would like to say directly to YouTube and the controllers at YouTube, if you dare to remove this broadcast, because it's going to go everywhere else as well, not just BoobTube. If you dare to block, to stop, to shadow this, you are showing your hand, and you are proving once again that you are complicit and that you agree with all the horrific things that these women have suffered. And I don't think you want to do that anymore, do you? So be smart. Don't be stupid. Be smart, all right? Try and upgrade the mentality of the dinner plates that a lot of you hold, okay? Because we are done. No more. I would like to say to every single survivor, whatever level of trauma you've suffered, don't put Gloria and Cathy above your suffering, because what's happened to you equally leaves a wound and deserves love, okay? So don't do that. We're programmed to do that. It's like when you're a child and you're eating dinner, you know, when you don't want to finish your dinner and your mum and dad go, well, in England, here's what they say. They go, what about the poor Chinese babies, you know, or the Indian babies, you know? That's what we're programmed to do. We're programmed to put our suffering out to somebody else. It's time for us all to go in and love on us and put that salve on us ourselves, okay? We can have compassion and love for Cathy and Gloria. Of course we can, and we do, but don't forget your own healing. Otherwise, the whole planet misses out on such a lot. I would ask all of you too, that as you, as you basically consent to love for self, that you consent for your own beautiful beingness, that you look in the mirror and you don't pull yourself apart, but look into the eyes, look into your eyes, look into your pupils, reach into that soul, reach into that inner child, and you tell that inner child what he or she is doing right and what he or she has done right. And you take that little babe that lives inside of you and you sit that little one on your lap and wrap him or her up and rock and love and rock and love and put in the love that you may never have received, because there are many of us that didn't receive love as children, and yet we somehow have found a way to be loving. And that love is there for all of us. It really, truly is. So thank you again to Gloria Masters, Cathy O'Brien, absolute legends in the recovery of humanity, legends in disclosure, legends in disclosure. Thank you, ladies. And to you guys out there, thank you for all you do, think and be. Get around people's houses, but make groups, sit in circle with each other, share your pain, share your tools, share your joy, share in the recovery of everyone. Do what you can do, because we're all here to do what we can do. My name is Danny Henderson. I send you my love. and I'll see you soon.